Well, joining us now is Tony Arterburn of Wise Wolf Gold. And again, as I said yesterday, you saw all this stuff from the European Central Bank, as well as many mainstream news articles. It was on Drudge for a couple of days at the top, talking about the fact that now gold has surpassed the holdings of U.S. Treasury bills because people don't trust the American government for some reason. I don't know why. It seems perfectly trustworthy to me, don't you think? But I said, Tony told us about this weeks and weeks ago. So, we look at the slogan, tomorrow's news today. I think Tony's got this weeks or months in advance. And it's a good thing that he does, because I think as volatile as the markets have been, if you didn't have some sense of the long-term direction things are going, Tony, you'd be out of business by now. So it's absolutely an essential skill to survival in this kind of marketplace. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, always great to be with you, David. And I appreciate, I was listening to the show yesterday and putting those things together. I mean, when the media, the mainstream, whenever they put out a headline like that, it doesn't really confirm it for me, but I do feel crazy sometimes where I'm like way out in front, like, hey, are you watching this metric? It's interesting because the European Central Bank put out that press release that gold has overtaken U.S. Treasuries as the number one held reserve asset. We've known that for a while, but if you scroll back further into the press releases from the European Central Bank, it's not, I think it was just about a year ago, they put out that gold was actually disrupting the monetary system, that it's destructive. Gold itself was destructive to the system. So now a lot of things have changed, right? The fact that gold is supplanting the dollar and becoming the world's reserve currency de facto again. A lot of the sentiment is changing. You can see that in the headlines.
Yeah. Well, it was also yesterday I talked about Jeffrey Tucker's article at Brownstone, where he said, we have been lied to over and over again. We all know the government lies with its inflation figures. It lies with its unemployment figures. Whenever it puts out a metric, it is always a lie. And he went into detail about how many different ways they have lied to us and how frequently they have changed the way they calculate inflation. They have changed it 8 times in 32 years or something like that, or 35 years, I think. But it's about once every 4 years, they completely change the way they calculate inflation. And that's the way Kevin Warsh is going to come in, the new Fed chair. He wants to come in start out by changing the way inflation is calculated. Yet another one of these quote unquote adjustments. But he went back to a project that a guy is working on. The guy's name is Elliot, and he used artificial intelligence to go back and put these numbers together, because that's one of the things that AI is already very, very good at, and that is making sense out of a haystack of information and finding the needles that are in there. And when they looked at this and saw the actual inflation rate was quite a bit higher, and noticed that we've been in recession now since basically the COVID nonsense. The economy has declined. The purchasing power has declined. I think the number was something like, let's see, I've got the actual percentage here, but I have to take a look at it. And but it is a tremendous decline in purchasing power since COVID. I mean, it's been like what we all suffered through at the end of the 1970s that was kicked off by the OPEC oil embargo. And now we got a Trump oil embargo that's going to kick this off. So I think inflation is really going to start raging on us.
Yeah, and the premise of that too, I've always wondered why they don't truly calculate the impact of currency creation in the inflation numbers.
That's right.
Because you're not dealing with a static purchasing power. It is transitory. Not that inflation is transitory, but the purchasing power is transitory and arcing downward. So over time, I've always wondered, and I think that again, the article is correct, because the true price of inflation is the expansion of the money supply. And then you go back to 1980, where we had, the peak inflation from, the runaway inflation 1970s and OPEC and all the rest of that. And you had Paul Volcker come in to contract the money supply. If you go back to that and you look at the purchasing power of the dollar, then we have 56 times more currency on earth today than in 1980. So if you expanded the money supply, not just in the United States, but globally, and destroyed purchasing powers, true metrics are much worse than the figures that the government puts out, because they're assuming static purchasing power.
Yeah, yeah, that is amazing. And they never look at the quantitative easing or any of that kind of stuff. They don't really factor that in. They only look at interest rates, don't they? That's such a tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
It's only a portion of it.
Hmm.
I'm starting to think that the Trump $250 bill is like a, an end run around quantitative easing by some sort of like paper fiat decree that we're going to put out all these $250 bills to make it look somewhat stable out there, and start getting people $250 bills. That'll last for a while.
Yeah.
But currency,
Well, you're going to need that
it's
to fill up your gas tank, right? You only pull out one of these Trump notes to fill up my gas tank now, $250 to fill it up. I think it's going to be what the $100 bill was worth when he came in. That's going to be the purchasing power of his $250 bill when he leaves, I think.
Well, it's funny. History. I was listening to a history of money yesterday on my drive back. I went down to Texas. I'm back up in Branson today because I had to pick up some silver to take to the trading floor. But I was listening to a book on the history of money, and one of the key points in Roman history, the first emperor to debase currency was Nero. And if you remember, you go back to the COVID era, there was that famous like post of Trump with a violin, or something like you can't stop what's coming, like Nero fiddled, right, Rome burned. But it was Nero who first debased the currency. And what's interesting is he had his face on it. He
Yeah.
put his face on currency. So maybe a little bit of history rhyming sometimes with great empires and debasement of currencies right now,
Well, it
David.
always is a hallmark of a tyrant that they want to build monuments to themselves, put their faces on the money, and name everything after themselves. And Trump is just checking all the boxes, isn't he? Well, since his lockdowns, there's been a 12%, I finally found it here, 12% GDP loss. Half of the US dollar purchasing power has been stolen by Trump since his last regime. And of course, Biden helped him as well. It's not just Trump fiddling around. Trump does fiddle with the tariff rates and the taxes and things like that, and it hasn't been to our benefit. But yeah, 12% loss of GDP, and half of the purchasing power of the dollar has disappeared because the economic shenanigans attached to the lockdowns alone. And the lockdowns were done by Trump. Everybody wants to say, well, okay, it's not the lockdowns are not the problem, and it's not the vaccine is the problem. It's the mandate from Biden that's the problem. No, Biden had a role to play in it, and they needed to shift it off to him so they could keep this ball rolling. If they had everything done by one guy, I think even the MAGA people would catch on eventually.
It's a tag. It's a tag team sport.
Yeah.
You and I were talking in 2019, and we've referenced this many times, but that last quarter when the central banks around the world, not just the Federal Reserve, but they were propping up the repo markets, and then the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
United States central bank, was it like 6 trillion, Dave? I mean, it was
Oh,
some
yeah.
massive amount of liquidity injection.
It was astronomical. I remember looking at it. It's like, what is a repo market? Are they taking people's cars? What's the deal with this? And I looked at the amount of money that they were doing, and when I first looked at it, it was the entire GDP essentially of Puerto Rico. And then a couple of weeks go by, and they do another one that's even bigger. I looked that up, and that was equivalent to the entire GDP of Switzerland, which is like the 20th largest economy in the world. And they're dumping that kind of printing, essentially, into the economy. And that was just before they started all the lockdown stuff.
There was a leap that happened on the timeline, and I go back and look at this. It's interesting metrics, but we talk about this. If people try to compare now to the 70s, and I guess you can in some ways with runaway inflation and what happened after we went off the gold standard. But much of what Paul Volcker did worked. I mean, it was manageable even with the numbers that we had and the debt that we had then. And you have to look at the structure that the world economy was in, and a lot of the things that the United States still made at the time, and the
Mm-hmm.
economic power that we still had at the time. So there was for many years, a couple of decades where nothing really happened. We were able to have, it's the seemingly, Wall Street did well, and stocks did well, and all, and the currency was somewhat static. I mean, the purchasing power in the 1980s and the 1990s did not degrade
That's
like it
right.
is now.
That's
When
right.
you reached when we reached 2008, 2009, David, if you go back and look at the metrics, there's something interesting that happened today. There was an article that even with all of the risk asset sell-offs that happened after the war kicked as the Iran war kicked off, where countries were liquidating gold, if you go look at the metrics, central banks bought 17 tons net of gold in April. So
Wow.
even with all of the sell-off, what happened? If you go back to 08, 09, the buying of central bank gold by central banks, right, was almost zero. So they still use the dollar, like even up to 2008, 2009. It's been since then and then accelerated since 2022. So even in an environment where risk assets are being liquidated to cover shortfalls, like I think it was like 12 billion in gold that India just liquidated. They're denying it, at least officially, but it looks like about 12 billion of gold was liquidated by the Indian central bank. There's a lot of volatility out there, but still net buying by central banks around the world. That is something different. So this environment is completely different than anything that we've seen before in recent memory. And I mean, nothing has actually ever happened before because we never been in a fiat around the world fiat interlinking system with the dollar
Hmm.
de-dollarizing like this. So this has never happened. But it's funny, we talk about the European Central Bank and like they're way behind. I mean, yeah, their press release the dollar is been overtaken, the treasury's overtaken by gold. But if you look like the infrastructure that I've talked about, which I think will be the next shoe to drop, the infrastructure being built around the world to house physical gold contracts. Hong Kong,
Hmm.
and I just got another headline a few days ago. Hong Kong is rapidly building gold storage facility infrastructure for trading. So
Hmm.
that's how currency and that's how deals will be done in the future, and it won't be because of the lack of trust and the lack of transparency, the sanctions that have and weaponization of the dollar that have gone on
Hmm. Hmm.
rapidly moving away from the dollar. This has to be, when people like Scott Bessent, are talking about sanctioning people using basically becoming a wing of foreign policy is what I talked about on my show last
Yeah.
week. I've never seen that. That's
Yeah.
never happened in U.S. history with the sitting U.S. Treasury Secretary. Maybe Morgenthau. I think Don Jeffries brought it up to me from World War II. Maybe Morgenthau, maybe, but because he had the Morgenthau plan for post World War II Germany. But that's the only time I've ever seen that before. And so I think we're in unprecedented waters where the dollar is clearly in trouble.
Hmm.
Each day that clicks by, and we still haven't seen the true fallout has not happened yet because of the release of oil from the strategic reserve. David, you know this.
That's right. And they're running
Still
out
haven't
of that
seen
oil
it.
because they're drawing it down so quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting because, everybody is running out of oil, even the United States, in terms of the strategic petroleum reserve that they're using to try to keep that from blowing up. But, we began this whole thing when Biden started weaponizing the financial system against Russia. And we've seen that happening over and over again. And yet you talked about Bessent, and we look at what is happening in terms of Trump's pick for DNI. He's got this guy, Bill Pulte, who basically was weaponization on steroids. We're going to see domestic weaponization. We're going to see all this social credit stuff and all the rest of this stuff. They're laying the foundation for all of this. And they're out there saying, we're going to start using the intelligence agencies to identify groups who are anti-American and this and that, who are racist. And you know where they're going to go with this. We know where the Democrats are going to go with it once they take power, and we know where the Republicans are going to go with this. They're going to go into anti-Semitism. Don't you dare criticize Israel, or we will call you a racist, and we will punish and cancel you. And so this is what the future looks like. This is one of the other reasons I've said about gold. It's not merely, for me, a play on inflation and bad monetary policy and the decline of the fiat currency. For me, it is survival in a world where I'm going to be a target. And you will too, depending on your political and religious beliefs. You need to have something that's going to be outside of their system where they're going to do their best to shut you down. And I
Yes.
think we're going to see, they want to talk about weaponization and all the rest of this stuff, but they're going to do this, the same type of stuff that they've been doing, which has undermined the U.S. dollar and financial system internationally. they're going to use that same kind of weapon against us domestically, just like Madison said. The tools of war abroad become instruments of tyranny at home. And that financial weaponization is going to become a tool of tyranny. We've already seen a lot of it happening already.
And Madison also said that a republic cannot survive in a state of perpetual warfare. And we're clearly seeing the end of that experiment. And who knew a guy that built crappy homes would make America a bad place to live in?
That's right.
Who knew?
And we're not talking about Madison. He didn't build crappy homes, but Pulte does.
We're talking about Pulte. And even, becoming director of national intelligence. I mean, the job doesn't really attract the best people, I guess, over time.
Yeah.
And it is sad to watch, David, but you're right. I think we just have to be prepared for how ugly the partisanship's going to
Yes.
get, the tyranny from whatever side takes charge. I mean, whether it's the Democrats in 28 or whether it's another, Republican or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. The tyranny is baked into this system. They're building the AI data centers for this very goal of monitoring speech, monitoring movement. That's what they would like to build. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what side they're supposedly on. The left-right paradigm is garbage. There's no truth in that. It's all a race to the Great Reset and the agendas that the parasite class have for us. Everything that they've talked about for decades is culminating here. At least that's the push, is to get you into this surveillance system under their thumb and bypass the Constitution.
I agree.
So it is our responsibility at this point to start thinking, how do we stay outside of the system to the best of our ability?
Yeah. And the thing that I'm surprised at, Tony, is the fact that people have picked up on Bill Pulte. A lot of people called him a thug and things like that. And they mentioned the fact that he was, Trump's, I guess, bloodhound to go find dirt on his political enemies and everything. But think what it really tells us about Trump, that he's going to link this with intelligence, right? Pulte is a guy whose family, as you point out, was a mass producer of homes, predominantly, I guess, in Texas. I don't know. That's where I saw him. I didn't see him so much in other places where I've lived, but a big home builder. And he's in charge of housing and development and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and things like that. So how does a guy like that get picked to do intelligence? Well, just look at what he did for Trump. He used artificial intelligence to ferret out information on Trump's enemies and to go down into the fine print and find a place where they could come after them for what was essentially a process crime. And why does Trump hate these? Well, certainly, there's justification for Letitia James. I mean, she is as corrupt as they come in terms of an attorney general in New York. But and she came after him for all kinds of frivolous stuff. Lisa Cook, on the other hand, what is her issue? She just opposed his push to lower interest rates. That's the basis for why he came after her. And so he uses this guy, Bill Pulte, who gets this stuff and finds this dirt and gives it to them so they can come after people. Trump loves that so much. This little loyal Stalin-esque guy, bring me the man, I'll find the crime type of thing. He loved that so much that he puts him in charge as director of national intelligence. And that right there screams of what Trump wants to do domestically in terms of coming after even policy enemies of his. And I just don't understand why people aren't screaming more about this, because to me, when I saw that, it's like, whoa, that's about the biggest admission of where he wants to take the spying on Americans right there, and using artificial intelligence to do it.
Well, it may be unfair to P.T. Barnum, but I guess we're going to find out what happens when you give P.T. Barnum executive power and nuclear weapons. But we're building, and I would hope if we're building the carnival on the White House lawn, that maybe they'll do the carnival model and move on after a certain time. People realize they're being fleeced. No, you're right, David. I mean, these things, and it's hard to watch on the outside because so much of even alternative media is still soaked in the left-right paradigm of us versus them, or my team versus your team. We have to remember that the goal of all of this is Agenda 2030. It's the Great Reset. And, it's funny, kind of like the carnival model or the casino model. You were talking about inflation and other numbers. so much of the financial system, and this is just my research and everything I've been looking at for years, is so fake.
Oh
It's
yeah.
absolutely fake. It's built on nothing. It's built on hundreds of times earnings. Unsustainable numbers. Like these things aren't real. It's just not real. So you're looking at like the distraction, whether you're watching, MSNBC or Jim Cramer comes on, you're talking about stocks and all these things that don't really even matter anymore. Literally, they're building their surveillance state.
Mm-hmm.
The United
Mm-hmm.
States, there's a controlled demolition of our standing in the world, of our empire, of our currency. It's clearly going on. My friend Charlie Robinson wrote that book, The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. A lot of
Yeah.
this stuff is predicted in
Yeah.
that 2021 book. And so we're watching this in real time. So the key here is not to get distracted so much by all of, because there's so much information, but what information actually matters. And so that's why when you pick up on an article that something I talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago that finally gets onto and it doesn't always get into the mainstream, the metrics that I'm seeing are so glaring, like the trends that are happening right now of where we head monetarily, like that's the story, because that's how they're going to the trajectory of everything they're trying to build is through that system.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be through stable coins. It's going to be the reset of currency. Even Elon Musk has been talking, he was being interviewed a couple of days ago about Tesla stock, about how smart money's in Tesla stock. But I just remember him 3 or 4 weeks ago saying basically we're just going to get everybody high, universal basic income.
Yeah, we're
So it's
just gonna
like,
get
well,
everybody high. Let's just leave it at that. That's
right.
420. That's
You well, you might need it after you figure out nothing you have is worth anything anymore.
yeah.
I mean, that's so you can't the point I wanted to make is you can't have both worlds. You can't have a world where stocks are truly valued at 400 times earnings and universal basic income. Like those two things don't go together. Like there's either an economy that works and people have upward mobility, or you have socialism. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have
Mm-hmm.
a totalitarian socialist state. So those two things don't go together. There's just a lot of duality happening at the same time. That's why I stay away from all of that. I try to I'll look at some headlines, but I'm looking and focusing on the intel for what's being built, and
That's right.
it's a lot of different things are being built right now, not just data centers.
Well, that's why when you look at Kitco, for example, I mean, you go to Kitco and they have the articles up and they keep them up for several days. You just see the headlines listed there, and you'll see, because Trump said something about a memorandum of understanding, now the stock market has jumped up, and this has happened to gold, and this and that, and then the very next article or so, you'll see it flipping back the other way. And it's just all this noise that Trump is creating, but you have to look at the long-term trends. And it was kind of an interesting thing that also came out. I mentioned yesterday that I think it was Bank of America, an analyst that was there, he noticed something with the stock market. He said, this is exactly what happened just before the dot-com bust. He said, just before the dot-com bust, you had only 20 stocks that went up. The rest of them were going down. And he said, same thing just happened. And it's an even narrower point that we've got right now in terms of creating essentially a pin for the bubble. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. You talk about how it's a casino, and absolutely that is true. But it's the longer term trends, and it is the longer term plans to have a completely controlled society that we should be concerned about. And that is coming to us through this digital world that's there. But of course, Trump's got, not Trump, but Musk has got his big IPO coming up for SpaceX. I think sometime next week. I had an interview yesterday we're going to play tomorrow with a guy who is, he's from Germany, and his name was Rainer Zeidelman, and he's got a book about space entrepreneurism and capitalism, and he talks a lot about Mars, and we talked about that. I said, how do you monetize? He wants to colonize Mars. How did that work out for the Virginia companies that came together to fund the people settling Virginia and in Massachusetts? If I remember correctly, those companies went bankrupt. It was a good thing for the settlers who went there. Not that I would think it'd be a good thing for a one-way trip to Mars. You ain't getting back from that once you go there. So, and it doesn't have the kind of beauty that Virgin America did when the settlers came here. But this whole thing of SpaceX and this big pump and dump that is coming in, it's going to be drawing money out of other stocks that are there. I actually saw an article. Somebody said, "What's it going to do to your 401k when everybody starts pulling money out of these other stocks and starts putting it into Tesla at inflated rates?" So we don't know what's going to happen with that. But it's like everything else. It really is a casino. It is a gambling casino.
It's like, what's the difference between that new stock and a meme coin? Nothing. I mean, it's not based off of anything or functionality. Not really. It's based off of perceived value.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Mars colony. Well, hopefully it won't be. But what was it, Roanoke? The actual first colony that they came back and it was just Croatan carved in a tree. You remember that?
That's right. The Lost Colony. They still have a play about that on the Outer Banks of North Carolina every year.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
No, the fakeness that's in the system and the bubble. AI is not really a bubble. It's a long-term trend, and it will infiltrate everything. I mean, AI is
well, the
is
same
like
thing was true of the internet as well, but it got ahead of expectations. Everybody pours and everybody can see the long-term implications of it, and they pour their money in, and then they don't have the patience to wait it out, because that's what we see with the stock market all the time. It's like, oh, what was the news today? Okay, they trade the news today. They don't trade long-term trends.
Yeah, and I think what will happen first. I mean, there's just going to be a reckoning, and there'll probably still be fallout from mistakes that were made 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
That will be the culmination of the end of the Bretton Woods 2 system that Nixon put us on after we went off the gold standard. The dollar reset as the world's reserve currency. All of these things are going to be happening pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's why I think if you look at the metrics and what's being built to use physical gold or
Mm-hmm.
physical silver or the means of currency exchange or contracts, really pay attention to that. That's the future system that's being built for what happens after.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be a continual up and to the right arc for wealth in the world, and especially not in the United States. It's going to be a great reset. They've told you this a long time. They're going to reset the system, and what'll come after will be based on some semblance of sound money, David, in my opinion, because of all of the failures previously. And a lot of these countries will remonetize their currency to gold. I don't know what the United States is going to do. As a matter of fact, we're talking again about auditing Fort Knox, which is the last time we did it was under Eisenhower. Nobody's seen it since. So I don't know I don't know that there's any gold there or half the gold. I don't know what's been promised or what's been, IOUs like Dumb and Dumber. I don't know if it's something like that, but we're definitely as the world's reserve currency. We have a real problem right now. I think the alarm bell should be going off, especially with what's happening with the price of energy and what's being converted away from that. I mean, the dollar usage is waning, and that's going to be a real issue for the power structure.
Well, they tell us over and over again what their plans are, and then when we pick it up and we start talking about it, that's a bunch of conspiracy theories. You can't believe this, and then they use the fact that we report on it, on what they have said, to basically give themselves cover and say, don't worry about it. It's not really happening. So I got a couple of questions here for you, some comments. As a matter of fact, you were talking about Nero playing fiddle, and Lance said Trump doesn't know how to play the fiddle. That's why he's hosting an MMA match instead. It's more of his style. I got a comment here from Guard Goldsmith. He says, I'm curious about gold and silver shipments to private brokers and dealers in the BRICS and some of the African nations that are orienting towards Russia now. What are your comments about that, Tony?
I don't know much about that. I have seen some intel about private buying because, we don't mention that enough. I mean, the multinationals are buying at a speed and a clip pretty much just like the central banks. It's a lot more hidden. There's not as much transparency because there's no government official designation for a lot of these multinationals, but they're absolutely doing that. Guard's right about that. I mean, and they're aligning, and he's correct. The future is not the Western dollar system. It's just not. It's not because of many factors, but especially the weaponization of the dollar. I mean, when you've got Trump in there at the beginning of 25 saying that if you don't use the dollar, you're going to get 100% tariff on your country. Like that's never happened before. It's so unprecedented. It's not just about sanctions. It's not even just about entry in the United States. It's 100% tariff on all your products if you don't trade in dollars. Well, no one's really going to observe that, and
No.
that by threat, and
Hmm.
that doesn't bode well. So you're seeing like they just there's a quiet exodus
Hmm.
from the dollar system and new systems. And so whatever BRICS is building, and I think more of what BRICS has done is about using technology for cross-border payment systems, than unifying one currency. I don't
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
I don't think that's really what's going to happen, David. And we've been talking about this for years. I really do think that at the end of the day, gold will be used again. It will still have technology,
Hmm.
and maybe blockchain to solidify contracts and to back up whatever currency's there, but it'll be transparent in real time. It won't be like, the Fort Knox system with the United States where supposedly we have, eight and a half, 8,000 tons or whatever it is. Um,
Yeah,
it
I think
won't be like,
BRICS is really looking like more like a confederacy than trying to create some kind of a union with one country in charge. That may evolve into that with China in charge, but right now they're trying to create this multilateral thing. And I think you're right. I think it is about the exchange of the money that is there. I've got another question for you. Hatchcar 612 asks, has the U.S. Mint halted production of silver eagles?
not to my knowledge.
Hmm.
I have not. I usually would know that. They do occasionally like halt for a minute and then catch up on supply, especially when there's a large demand. But
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten no. I do not know. I'll look into that and find out for next show. I haven't heard anything. I usually will get a notice from some of the mints that I do business with, but I haven't seen that.
Oh, that's interesting. Anything else you want to tell us about what's going on at Wise Wolf? And again, just mention to people, Wolfpack is a way that you can gradually accumulate gold and silver. You can determine what amount you want to do each month, and even if it's a small purchase, Tony will work with you to set up that small recurring purchase. So it's a great way to save money. You can save money in a currency in something that is not going to be losing value constantly, like the U.S. dollar. So what else is going on at Wise Wolf, Tony?
Oh, well, this week I had to go back to Texas, then I'm up in Branson again. Just delivering product, making sure we get these packages out there. We've got a lot of great stuff going into Wolfpack right now. I have done my best to find interesting, pieces of silver and other things that aren't in traditional, bullion subscriptions that I had funny. I had a customer recently that took his stuff to a coin dealer because he wanted to verify. I said, well, I welcome that because a lot of the coins that you
Mm-hmm.
get are going to be worth more than the silver price. We just go through so much bulk, with stuff. We just put even collectibles in there. So that's something I worked on this week is bringing a load of stuff that we bought in Texas up here to Branson to sift through and to sort out. So that's something we're working on. We also got for Wolfpack, uh, you can become an affiliate. It takes like 2 or 3 minutes to sign up if you're interested in making a little extra money.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to davidknight.gold. You can go to Wolfpack and sign up as an affiliate, or you can just send us an email. We'll send you a link. But that's the one way you can make a little extra cash by just sharing the link out with. It'll be your link. You can see what the sales are. We're really concentrating on that, David. I'm putting more of my infrastructure into the subscription program
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like everyday Americans and everyday people can still buy it. The larger purchases are not as frequent as they used to be. A lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines. It's confusing out there. I mean, it's one of
Well,
the
the thing I like
weirdest.
about the small levels of Wolfpack are that you get things like the goldbacks and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. I think that's such a useful thing. I mean, especially when it comes to the point that we actually need to use it. If you got something that's in a smaller denomination, which is what happens when you sign up for the lower levels of Wolfpack, now you've got something that's not like $1 million gold bar or something.
Yeah, in 5 years, Goldback will be so ubiquitous you won't recognize it.
Mm.
I've talked to some of the leadership of Goldback. They've actually come to visit me. I popped up on their radar because I was selling so many Goldbacks and put them through Wolfpack. Like, who is this guy? What do you? How are you moving this many Goldbacks? And they came and met with me, and I told them what I do, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well." we want to integrate you into our system. And they told me about how they use goldbacks and how it's creeping into like everyday, even small towns and markets where people are just trading goldbacks between each other. They were showing me these metrics. So there's a lot happening. Even, new states are coming online. Texas will be soon. We have an official Texas goldback. There's many other states, and
Hmm.
they're going to be used as currency. It
Yeah.
will be, and the cool thing about goldback is it's not. I mean, it's obviously it's a fraction of gold. So you got 24 karat gold in the note itself. So you've got meltable value, but there's a fixed goldback exchange rate. You can actually just download the app, and so when you're doing it, it stays in a fixed system.
Mm.
And for as long as they can hold it, then they'll reset it again. So
Hmm.
right now it's a fixed system. So whether you've got, a half denomination or a five, like you just calculate what one goldback is. So when one goldback's listed, like I think it's over $8 right now, you take the goldback and then you just multiply it
Oh,
or divide it by, and it stays fixed. It's really cool. I think
that's great having
that's
that app.
one
I
of the
didn't know
reasons.
about that app for the goldbacks. That's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Goldback will be in 5 years. There will be so much more ubiquitous. They're building an infrastructure for goldback currency exchange.
Mm.
Really cool. And we obviously we take goldbacks
Hmm.
at both my locations, or if you want to deal with us in goldbacks, you can. It's a really neat system.
That's great. Well, you've got a program immediately following this one as well, right? On Rumble as well as on X. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Our
Immediately
Arterburn Radio.
following this one. Yes.
Immediately following, we'll be live. We'll see. I'll see if I can cook up a show here in the next 5 minutes or so.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's always great having you on, and I really do appreciate your support. One of our longest term supporters, Tony Arterburn at Wise Wolf. And of course, you can get there through davidknight.gold as well. The common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at thedavidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. thedavidknightshow.com.